Okay, now that I know what I need to do a better job explaining what I've done with a problem, I didn't write an original problem. What I did was I put a bunch of bases with exponents on top of the line. And this is how you do that. This is how you decide if something needs to go to the other side of the line or if it doesn't. So if you have a negative exponent, which we do with this 4, that's going to have to go to the opposite side. So write OPP, opposite. This 7 here is positive, so I need to, that stays on the same side of the line it's already on, so that's stay. This is a negative, so that's opposite, okay? Now, the ones I decide were opposite have to go to the opposite side of the line. So here we have opposite. Now, what side of the line is this on right now? It's on top. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. So you move the 3 to the bottom. And the negative 4 then becomes a positive 4. Okay, then we have this positive 7. That's a stay. So where's it at now? It's on top of the line, so it stays on the top. So x to the 7th stays on the top. And the y is opposite, so where's it at now? It's on top of the line, so what's the opposite of top? It's on the bottom, so we move the y down to the bottom, and then its negative power now becomes a positive. Okay, so now I circle these again, and the ones I can actually clone, I'm going to clone. I can't clone the x or y, but the 3 to the 4th I can clone. That'd be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and that would equal 81. Okay, so x to the 7th is on top. The 3 to the 4th is replaced with 81 on the bottom. And y to the 2nd stays like it is, and that's the answer. Okay, next problem. Let's look at all the factors. We have a negative exponent here, in 4 to the negative 2nd, so that's opposite. Means it goes to the opposite side of the line over here. The 3 here is positive, so that's a stay. Power here is negative, so that's opposite. Now let's go down. We have a negative power here, that's opposite. We have a positive power here, so that would be stay. Okay, so 4 is on top. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. So you move the 4 to the bottom, and then the negative 2 changes to the opposite, which is 2. Okay, x to the 3rd, that's stay. It's on top now. It stays on top. It's a negative exponent, goes to the other side of the line that it's already on now. Okay, this is a negative. This is opposite, and it's on top now, so what's the opposite of the top? Bottom. So you go down here, times dot, and then y, negative 7 goes positive. Okay, now we also put opposite on the 3 to the negative 3rd. Okay, so that, where's that at now? It's on bottom. What's the opposite of bottom? Top. So times 3 goes to the top, and its 3rd becomes positive. Then z to the 6th is stay. Now, where's it at now? The bottom. So it has to stay on the bottom. So z to the 6th. Okay, now let's recircle the factors and find which one ones I'd actually be able to clone. I can't clone the letters, but I can clone the 3 to the 3rd. That equals 27. And I can clone the 4 to the 2nd, and that's 16. Okay, so the 3 to the 3rd was on top, so 27's on top, and the 4 to the 2nd's on the bottom, so 16's on bottom. Okay, and the x to the 3rd's on top for letters, variables, and the y to the 7th and the z to the 6th belong on the bottom, so y to the 7th times z to the 6th. Okay, 27 and 16 are on opposite sides, so just don't do any operations with those. Okay, here I just have 2. I have 3 to the negative 4th, 6 to the negative 4th. That is a negative, so that's opposite. And this has a negative power, so that's opposite. So 3 has been labeled with opposite. It's on top now. What's the opposite of top? bottom. So move the 3 down, and the negative 4 turns into positive 4. Okay, now we also labeled this factor opposite. So it's on bottom now. What's the opposite of bottom? Top. So you switch it, and the negative 4 becomes 4. Okay, so these are my factors. I can clone them. So 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, that's 1,296. And on bottom, I've got 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and that's 81. So I replace the 6 to the 4th with 1,296, and I replace the 3 to the 4th with 81. All right, now those are on opposite sides of the line, so don't do any operations. That's my answer. Okay, now to the next one. A to the negative second and B to the negative third are my two factors. So we have a negative here, so that's opposite. We have a negative 3 here, that's opposite. So A has been labeled with opposite, so it's on top now. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. So the A is to the bottom, and the negative 2 switches to a positive 2. The whole point of doing this opposite stuff is so that I can make the negative exponent into a positive exponent. Okay, and I have this B, it says opposite, so where's it at now? The bottom. So what's the opposite of bottom? Top. Okay, so I have these two factors here, but they're both variables, so we just keep them like they are. We can't really clone them. So B to the third over A to the second. Okay, next page, I've got two factors, 7 to the third, x to the negative second. Now this doesn't negative, this third power is not, so that's stay. And this is negative, so that's opposite. Okay, so this I've labeled with stay, so it's on top now, so have it stay on the top. This has been labeled opposite. It's on top of the line now. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. And when you move it to the bottom, the negative switches to a positive. Okay, so again, now here are my two factors. I can clone the 7. 7 times 7 times 7 is 343. So I replace 7 to the third on top with 343. And then x to the second stays like it is. Okay, I've got three factors. I have a negative here, so that is a opposite. I have a negative here, that's an opposite. And I have a negative here, that's an opposite. So my first factor is opposite, so where's it at now? It's on top. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. So you move 3 to the bottom, and the negative 3 switches to a positive 3. Okay, the next factor I put opposite. Where's it at now? It's on top. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. Okay, and then the last factor I also put opposite. Where's it at now? On top. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. Okay, so we have these three factors. The only one I can really clone is the 3 to the third. So that would be 3 times 3 times 3, and that equals 27. So replace 3 to the third with 27. You need to put it on the bottom because that's where the 3 to the third was at. And the variables I can't really clone. I just leave them the way they are in the same place they are. Now, anytime the top's empty, you want to put a 1 on top. Okay, 8 to the negative second. That's an opposite because it's negative. X to the 12th, that's a stay because it's positive. 5 to the negative second, that's an opposite because it's negative. And y to the 6th is stay because it's positive. So my first factor is opposite. So the opposite, it's on top. The opposite of top is bottom. And the negative 2 switches to a positive 2. This says stay. It's on top now. It stays on top. Stay means put it, keep it, it stays on the same side. Okay, my next factor here, that's opposite. So it's on bottom now. What's the opposite of the bottom? It's top. So times 5, and the negative 2 switches to a positive 2. This says stay. It's on bottom. It stays on bottom. So I have x to the 12th, 5 to the 2nd, 8 to the 2nd, y to the 6th. So what can I clone here? I can clone 5 to the 2nd. It'd be 5 times 5, and that's 25. Now 5 to the 2nd was on top, so 25's on top. And the 8 to the 2nd, that'd be 8 times 8, and that's 64. And that's on bottom. 8 to the 2nd was on the bottom, so 64 is on bottom. And the variables, just write them down. So times x to the 12th on the top, times y to the 6th on the bottom. Again, if you have a negative exponent, it's got to move to switch. It's got to go to the opposite side of the line so that you can make its exponent into a positive. Okay, and then this one, I've got two factors. That'd be opposite because of the negative exponent, and this would be the opposite because it's a negative exponent. So this is opposite, so it's on top now. What's the opposite of top? Bottom. And then we turn the exponent into a positive. Okay. That's opposite. Where's it at now? It's on bottom. What's the opposite of the bottom? The top. So it goes to the top. That becomes positive. Okay, so I have these two factors, both of them which can be cloned. So 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. You can also use your calculator, 4 to the 5th. So 4, and then this key here, 4 to the 5th, is 1024. Now that stays on top. And then the 3 to the 5th, that'd be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. You can also go 3 to the 5th, and that's 243. Now 3 to the 5th was on bottom, so 243 goes on bottom. Okay, so hopefully that made sense of when something goes on top and bottom.